Hello and welcome to Telesur. I'm Carla Gonzalez. This is Interviews from Quito. The program will be explore some of the biggest challenges facing this country and the region. In today's program, we look at the current documentary festival taking place in Ecuador, EDOC. It presents hundreds of films on different topics, including the negotiations behind the peace agreement in Colombia, Dilma Rousseff's parliamentary coup in Brazil, the horrors of genocide against the indigenous in Guatemala, the fight to end discrimination against transgenders, among others. But one topic closer to home is that of migration. To discuss this, we have Dario Aguirre, an Ecuadorian filmmaker, who is presenting a film about his own journey as a migrant. But first, let's take a look at this video.
Encuentros del Otro Cine is an independent, non-competitive film festival hosted in Guayaquil and Quito, but not limited to those Ecuadorian cities. It's where local and international filmmakers showcase their work. The festival not only aims to support filmmakers by promoting their documentaries, it also preserves Ecuador's audiovisual heritage. Conferences were also hosted for international film directors. Animation documentary maker Samantha Moore came from the UK to take part in the event. Just over 100 films from the more than 40 countries will be featured at this year's festival, with more than half of the talent coming from Ecuador.
So thank you, Dario, for being with us. You have a film coming out in the EDOC Festival. It's called Land of My Children, El País de Mis Hijos. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, The Land of My Children is a movie that's about my process of becoming a German citizen. That's the general scope of the movie. But at the same time, it speaks about the metamorphosis that happens when you migrate to a new country. Not only I went to Germany 20 years ago, but in this process, you leave some things behind from your culture without even noticing it, and you adopt things from the new country. So you reinvent yourself. The movie shows you a lot of this process, which is very hard to visualize. It's abstract. It's something you don't even notice. And well, now we're very happy to be here in the EDOC Festival to present the movie to the Ecuadorian public.
Presented in Guayaquil, one of the places where the festival is taking place. How was the receiving there? How did the people received it when they were there?
Well, the presentation in Guayaquil was incredible. There was a lot of expectation because of my previous movies, and this one, there were many people who were involved with the movie, that were in the movie, and live in Germany, but their families live here, so they went to see the movie. So they saw it from a different standpoint. This evidence of their daughters and sons, and they were able to understand many things that happen when you migrate. So the response was very emotional. Many people laughed because I use a lot of humor in my movies, because since it's such a deep topic, I use laughter a lot. Since that is the essence of life, it's laughter and confront grief. The presentation was very emotional. There was lots of people from Guayaquil, and now I'm here in Quito, just awaiting how people are going to respond in Quito.
Easy is it to represent your life in a film? You've done it in a couple of your movies, but now it's a bit more personal. It's about your wife, it's about your children. How's that process for you?
It's hard when you begin to do these movies. At the beginning, it's hard because you have to take some distance, some emotional distance from the character. And in this case, it was my third film in the same style. So I had some experience. Nevertheless, it is hard because you have to confront yourself with new challenges. The hardest thing to attain is to have this emotional distance and be able to understand what each scene means for the movie and be able to connect them. This is a method that you practice throughout experience. I've been able to do so through practicing. So what I like is that important people of my family are involved. So they all had something to do with my story of migration. For example, my dad tells his story based from his point of view. My parents-in-law told their story. My wife told their story. And a colleague of mine who's my counterpart of experience, they all have a different scope of things. And at the same time, it's very near to me. So that it makes
You were
sense.
referencing to the humor, the irony that you use in this film. Can you explain a bit for the people that haven't watched the film yet or will watch it later, why is it ironic, this film that you make about migration, your migration to Germany?
I think irony is something very healthy because irony has an aspect in the method that begins with the criticism or thinking of things beyond the obvious. And irony gives you a space to think beyond humor. So I use it a lot to provoke situations that are humorous, to talk about something a bit more profound. That if you just do it in a normal sense, if you talk about it in a normal sense, it would be much more difficult. I think humor and irony are a method of catharsis, and that we have it in Latin America very present on a day-to-day basis. It has helped me to survive many of the processes we've had. It's something I've learned from my family, and now I'm transmitting it through my movie as an option to analyze these hard times and intense.
So you were also a part of the whole process of Ecuadorians migrating, leaving Ecuador. Well, some of them had to do with the crisis in 2000, around 2000, the monetary crisis. How did you live that experience, knowing that you were a migrant abroad and seeing how hundreds of thousands of Ecuadorians had to leave Ecuador as well and had to suffer some of the things that you suffered as well?
For me, it was an experience. My migration was not due to economic reasons, luckily. But I was in the same airport, sharing experiences with people who were separating. I had to see that, and I understood my privileged situation. That was something that I still keep as a feeling of knowing that your country has an advantage over others, and likewise for the other countries. The German citizenship has a rule that you normally you have to leave your previous nationality behind. However, Ecuadorian law does not allow that. So I have double nationality. It all depends from where you're from. And that is something that really hurts. Because you're aware that you grow with a feeling of injustice and that you have to live with it and at the same time find your path. When the 91 migration was almost the same thing. Why people with the same dreams have two different destinies, when in fact, when you have dreams, those are the ones that should guide you and help you out, help those dreams become true. For me, that was my first confrontation with migration as such, as a process of breaking of families. while being in the airport, seeing how a family lets another loved one go. In my case, I didn't want my family to come with me to the airport because that would have been too hard. But when you think about it, these people, these other people, were leaving and they knew they were not going to come back, or at least in a long time. So the hurt was very strong and you could feel it.
And if we look a bit at your movies, your documentaries about your life, it seems that you're on a journey. At the beginning you had Cesar's Grill about your family, your connection with your parents. Then you had 5 Ways to Dario, which is a more personal connection with yourself, at least trying to find yourself in other people. And now it seems like it's another step of looking forward, looking to the future on the land of your children. Would you say that is the case?
I think the 3 movies have been an attempt to understand what happens when you migrate, which is something that when I left, I had no preparation for. And what I did on the way was to react to everything that was coming to me. And meanwhile, I was doing this project, and they developed into a trilogy about migration, identity, how politics work in different places, and how politics affect your daily life. All of these topics were evolving on the way, depending on what happened to me. But above all, trying to focus on the universal aspects which other people have also lived them and will feel identified.
Several festivals, and now you're presenting it here in EDOC, in another type of movies are being produced now. What do you see, how do you see it being important to present your film in such an unique space as EDOC?
I think it's essential that EDOCs exist. They are an important space for education. They should have an important presence, and they should have more financial aid on behalf of a ministry. Because I believe that movies and cinema in general meet a goal, which is to educate and create a way of thinking and the way you can understand in a global manner and be able to make decisions as a society in a correct way. So for me, EDOC is a festival that ever since I've met it has always received my movies, and I think that it's essential for a country, and not only for the moviegoers, but for society in general.
New filmmakers or old filmmakers that are making new movies at the time from Ecuador. How do you see your connection with new filmmakers in Ecuador? Do you see them growing, presenting more alternatives in this type of festivals?
There's a growing movement of movies in Ecuador nowadays. There's several initiatives. There's an attempt to go beyond the borders with the projects and that have nice reception elsewhere. And above all, people want to do movies, and there's a lot of collaboration between colleagues. Where in other countries where there is more money, there's less collaboration. So it's a nice sensation that we live in Ecuador. It's a common dream to grow in an environment where you can make movies and create more spaces where we can
do you see it as a space
see
that
these
could
movies.
Be promoted? You were mentioning maybe the help of the state, maybe a ministry that is involved in culture, in education, in production, audiovisual production as well.
I think that in every country, it should be on the main agenda. Cinema as an option to produce education. And normally, culture has also always been seen like just entertainment. But what we're doing in Ecuador goes beyond, goes to the educational aspect of a country. So I think that we should give it the necessary economic support for this to survive. This is the same case for all of the movie festivals in the world, which have a short lifespan, and they leave a lot of evidence of their work.
The films that are being presented in EDOC, and I'm assuming you've seen some of them as well. What do you see? Is there a path that many filmmakers are taking? Are they denouncing more social issues, more gender issues? Your film is one of the main one on migration. There's the social issues that are being presented. What do you think are the main ones that are being the center of the discussion as well?
What's interesting about the EDOC Festival shows you an array of options, not only on how you make the movie, not the creative process, but in content. It shows you overall the intention is to give you a variety of topics, and therefore give you a wide range of topics and an understanding and tolerance of other culture, of different ways of life. I think the main thing of the programming is that they're very varied, and at the same time, it widens many minds.
Where do you see yourself in a couple of years now? Do you continue to see yourself continuing working on documentaries, on your life? Probably the next movie will come out of your children now in Germany or maybe something related to that.
Well, now I have a new project that I'm developing. It's going to have to do with the history of Germany and Ecuador. And I'm in the process of developing it. I think my line will always keep interest in my personal life. And it depends on each project, on which way I go, maybe documentary or movie. Now it's always been my own story. Up until now, it's been my own story. But I'm totally open to see new options in the future. It's something that evolves on a day-to-day and on the people you meet. Future is uncertain, but very positive.
Have you seen this whole process changing the way you feel about your nationality or your children's nationality? Maybe it has changed the way you think about your country or the country that has taken you in, for as to say it, as is Germany.
I think what's interesting is with my children, how I can see what they adopt from my own point of view, how I am, of the place I come from, and one thing, the things that they learn from this new culture, and see how they're a mix. And this is the future of the planet. The cultural mix is something that is coming, and it's a chance to broaden humanity. And that's what I love about seeing the process of my children, that ease in which they reinvent themselves every day. They learn and they act, and they take everything new to grow, as a way to grow. I think they're my main sample of how these processes that are different and hard. And when you're an adult, it's harder to assimilate. So in my own life, when I feel that I am being intolerant, I inspire myself and my children to try and leave back any type of prejudice, and I inspire myself in them.
That experience is interesting for the audience because it's real, it happened to you, it's something that you can connect to. Do you think you'll change at some point and try to make fiction, or is that even something that people are attracted to these days?
Well, with my work, I always try to relativize reality. My work doesn't try to be like 100% documentary, to tell you like a story 100%. I always try to mix a documentary and a movie because I don't believe in 100% truth. At the moment, I'm totally satisfied with this mixture. Discovering the way to do it is always a surprise because it tells us a lot about how we work. There are some publics that like much better documentary because it's closer to what they live. So I think that at any point I do some fiction, it might be very documentary.
To change and to include both of your experiences, the one you have from inside and the one you see in the world outside as well. Thank you very much, Dario. We are running out of time, unfortunately, but thank you very much. And we hope that people here in Ecuador like your movie as well, and that you continue producing films and documentaries that we can see as well.
Gracias.
Thank you.
So we've been talking to Dario Aguirre, Ecuadorian filmmaker, about the current documentary festival in Ecuador, EDOC, and how it's being used to expose the reality of social issues affecting the region, such as migration. Thank you for watching. This is Interviews from Quito. I'm Carla Gonzalez. Until next time.